Hari Om, everybody. We are on the portion of Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the final portion in this chapter, the last 18 verses, starting at 54. And the portion starts with a question. Bhagwan has finished his teaching, started off with the highest standpoint, came to the lowest standpoint, and then bridged the two standpoints, the lowest and the highest, through Karma Yoga. So he has finished his teaching, and now Arjun has coined a new word, Sthita Prajna, indicating that he has understood the teaching, because this word was not used by Bhagwan, and it means a person whose intellect is sthita. It's very, very steady, obviously in the self, because that is the only thing which is really steady. Everything else is in a state of flux. So he has coined this word, and he has a few questions. And there are a few shades to those questions. I have a doubt, does such a person really exist? If he does, then tell me what his characteristics are. Or I have heard the characteristics, but they were not like in one part. So can you tell me all of them together so I understand them very well? One is, maybe I am a Sthita Prajna, so if I can listen to the characteristics, I can compare my own attitudes. But the final one, which is, please tell me the goal so that I can try to achieve that goal. And that is where we have to be at, is that the reason that we need to understand the final goal is so that we can try to reach that. If we know the goal, if we know a destination, then the means, we can try the means. If we don't even know the destination, what means are we going to take? Right? So that is the attitude with which we study these characteristics. So we study them from the standpoint of the man of realization, and then we sort of see how we can, what are the various ways in which we can try and achieve them. As you think, so shall you become. That is what is said. So if we continue to meditate, if we continue to know, if we continue to think about how a man of realization behaves in various situations, and when we are faced with those situations, because the situations that are faced by the man of realization and by us are the same. Don't think that the world suddenly changes for the man of realization. He's living in the same world that we are. So whatever that we are facing, he's going to face too. Maybe not the same thing, but these various types of situations, they will be the same for both of us, for the ignorant and the man of realization. What is his response is what is important, because we need to know what is his response and what would have been my response, or how would I react to this. That is where that comparison has to happen. Outside situation, nothing is going to change. It is going to be the same for both of us, man of realization and us, ignorant people and seekers as well. So the ignorant person will behave in a different way. The seeker has to, as seekers, we have to try to be like how the man of realization would have behaved. We have to try. And the questions, therefore, he asks is, what is the meaning of samadhi to a man of realization? So does he sit in samadhi all the time, or does he come out of it? And then if he does come out of it sometime, then how does he talk? How does he sit? And how does he walk? How does he move about? So these are the questions. And like I told you, they seem superficially, they may seem like they don't make any sense. But when you look at the answers, then you know that those questions are very much, very, very deep. The first question, what does samadhi mean to a man of realization, as is answered in verse 55, which we saw last time. So Bhagwan says that the meaning of samadhi to a man of realization is the cessation of all desires. That is what samadhi means to him. It doesn't mean that he's going to go sit in a corner or in the mountain top or in a cave and be in samadhi for the rest of his life. No, he is going to live in this world. But while living in this world, he's a sthita prajna. His intellect has become so firm in the self that there are no more desires in his mind at all. Though the verse says that once all the desires are gone, that such a person is known as a man of realization. I told you that if we say that, oh, then I will wait for my desires to be all fulfilled, no, that is not going to happen. That's why I gave you the example of the dream. You have to wake up first to realize that the dream is an illusion. You can, while dreaming, you will never know that it is an illusion. So if you're waiting for all the desires to be fulfilled, then it's like you're dreaming and you're waiting within the dream to realize that it's an illusion. That is not going to happen. So waking up has to come first. So realization has to come first. For a man of realization, he has attained the self. He is so fulfilled. Desires come out of a sense of incompleteness. And he is now complete. He's complete, that there is nothing left for him to do. Because we feel incomplete, because we are identified, why do we feel incomplete and limited? Because we are identified with the matter equipment, and matter is always limited. Matter has, a body has dimensions. So matter is always limited. We are identified with matter, so we feel limited. So when I feel limited, that means what? I feel incomplete. Then when I feel incomplete, then I want to do something to complete that incompleteness. That is why that desire is arising. And when a desire arises, it is prompting us into action, because any kind of worldly desire, it has to be followed by an action to be fulfilled. Because it is apraptasya prapti. That means there is something which I don't have. I think I don't have, which is something different from me. It is real. That also, the sense of reality also I am giving the world. And then I don't have it, and I'm incomplete without it. So I have to perform an action. And so then I go on performing actions, and I go on fulfilling desires, thinking that all my desires will one day be fulfilled. However, desires are like that fire. So the more you go on adding to that fire, the fire blazes even more. Like that, the more you go on fulfilling your desires, there will be the next desire will be waiting. So those desires will never get fulfilled. And so the sadhana is to be, for us, he is feeling complete, content. Complete is what? Contentment. That's what I've already told you before also. Contentment doesn't mean that I have a lot, but I am happy in whatever that I have. I'm content. So if I try to develop a sense of contentment, that, okay, I have this much, what more do I need? Then that will help with satiating the desires, calming the desires down. The intensity of the desire is going to determine the intensity of the action. So desires are there. So try to develop a sense of contentment. That's one thing. Second thing is to remember that this world is an illusion. So no matter how much you go after it, it's going to just take you into the world more and more and more. It is not going to bring you back. So remembering what your real self is, what your true nature is, that will help. And last but not least is that also remembering that prarabdha is there, which is controlling the body, mind, intellect. Prarabdha is there only for the body, for the matter. It is not there for the soul. It is not there for Atma. And the man of realization, being identified with the self, knows that this body has its own prarabdha. That's why he's living. And whatever that prarabdha is going to bring for the body. So why should I worry about it? If sukha, if happiness is going to come, if prarabdha of the body, it will come. If dukkha is going to come, that will come too. So this attitude, if I keep it desire. So if I have a desire in my mind, let it not agitate you. That's very important, that the mind doesn't see. For an ignorant person, or even when we were not in this path, whenever a desire arose in our mind, we got agitated. Why? Because then, oh my God, I want this, and will I get it? Will I get it? Will I get it? What should I do? What should I do? How should I do it? So these type of agitations, not that we should not do, but don't get agitated. And why not get agitated is to know, by being sthita prajna, by putting our intellect steady into a thought that if this is meant for me, I'm going to get it. There we should be sthita. Right now, we cannot be steady in the Atma because we have not reached that stage. So let us at least have faith in the scriptures who are saying that prarabdha can never be avoided. Prarabdha is prakarshena arabdha, that destiny which has begun. When does it begin? When we took birth. So man of realization also has prarabdha. Why? Because he took birth. The very fact that he took birth means he was at that point, he was ignorant. At birth, he was ignorant. So he took birth. Or before birth, his previous births, he was ignorant. That's why the birth came. Now, within this birth, he has realized. Did he suddenly die? No, he didn't die. Why? Because the body prarabdha is there. That will go on, you know, we don't know how long. Neither does he. So when he transcends the body, mind, intellect, he comes to know that whatever desires are there, they will get fulfilled. He actually has no desires anymore because he's complete. But for us, what we can think is, if I have a desire and if it is meant for me to happen, it will happen. That doesn't mean you don't work towards it. So it's not like, oh, if I'm supposed to pass, I'll pass and I won't study at all, or I won't go for the exam only, I'll just pass. That way you're not going to pass. You can't sit at home and say that if I'm going to get a first class, they will just send me a degree. They won't. Okay. No, that is not the meaning of that. But don't get worried. But do study. Do go for the exam. Do write the exam with your full this thing. That's where Karma Yoga comes in. Okay. So this is how the final goal for us as spiritual seekers is to maintain the peace of mind. Whatever will make your mind peaceful, use that method. That's why I'm giving you a few methods. Whatever jives with you, whatever resonates with you, use it. Prarabdha resonates with you, use that. If your goal, like, no, I want to be like a man of realization. That is my goal. No matter what happens, I want my mind at peace. That resonates, use that. Whatever be the means, it'll be different for all of us. Mind has to be calm. Okay, so that's why Bhagwan here says that the person who has no more desires is called a sthita prajna, that he uchyate, sthita prajna uchyate. And then he goes on. Now, his attitude in the world, I told you he's living in the same world as us, so dukkha will come because it is his prarabdha. So when sorrows come, he doesn't get udvigna, he doesn't get agitated for the same reason, because he knows that this sorrow has come as a result of his prarabdha. He's actually, I told you also, Samarth Ramdas says, when sorrows come to the body, because see, sorrow is coming only to the body, mind, intellect, equipment. Sorrow is not coming to the Atma. Soul is not getting sorrowful. So it is coming. Consider, be happy, because you know why? Some papa karma is exhausted in the past. So when the body gets fever, or somebody insults us, we feel hurt. Emotionally we get hurt, whatever. I'm emotionally hurt nowadays, new phrases. So when you are hurt that way, physically, emotionally, intellectually, then you don't blame the other person. You actually thank the other person. Okay, I got this hurt, but you know what? Some of my demerit is now exhausted. Some of my papa karma is exhausted. And thank God for that. Because prarabdha doesn't go away without experiencing. Sanchita karma and agami karma, the past and the future, they burn in knowledge immediately. When knowledge happens, they burn. Prarabdha has to be exhausted. And that's why we see realized masters getting all kinds of bodily diseases. I've told you many times. Cancer is there, heart disease, whatever. So they get it. Why? Because of the prarabdha. So in dukkha, he doesn't get agitated. Sometimes even sukha comes by because birth has happened because of 50% pap, 50% punya. That's why nobody can say that whole life I was sorrowful only, or whole life I was joyful. Whole life, at least you can be joyful, but generally there will be sorrows as well, because it's a 50-50 mix for human birth. So then sukha comes too. So in sukha, his vigata spraha, vigata without spraha. Spraha means a longing for that sukha. So what happens with us or with an ignorant person, and seekers too, that's why seekers have to be aware of that, is that a sukha comes and then I like it. obviously, right? Sorrow I don't like, and joy I like. So I crave it. I crave it. That craving is spraha. Not the enjoying of that joy is not spraha. So the joy comes, you enjoy it. Vedanta is not telling don't enjoy. You get a chance to travel, you travel, or you get to see whatever, you do your favorite thing, do it. Do it, but don't have the constant, when will I travel again? When will I get this thing again? When will I? And that's what we do. The best example I find is, you go for a movie and you see a preview, and then you're like, now my next movie is that preview. So that's spraha. And spraha also can be avoided. And why does a man of realization doesn't have spraha? Because he's Sthita Prajna in the self. First of all, he has no desire. We desire everything for joy. Okay, so that desire only is not there to begin with. Now, in spite of not having the desire, because prarabdha has kicked in, prarabdha is begun, there will be sorrow and there will be joy. And he knows that. Oh, my prarabdha has brought me joy. My prarabdha has brought me sorrow. Okay, there is nothing for me to get agitated. And okay, my prarabdha has brought me joy this time, something that I like to eat or something that I like to do, it's come. I don't have to have longing for it, because if it is there in my prarabdha, it will come again. It'll come again. So he doesn't long for it. When it comes, he enjoys it. It's vairagya doesn't mean that, just, oh God, no, I don't want this, If he wins a lot, I mean, you never buy a lottery ticket, but if he wins some money somewhere, he will take it. He will use it for his own ashram or for furtherment of this thing, not for his personal use. But it's not that he's going to refuse it. But then he's not going to be having that, when will I get it again? Will I ever get it again? Will there be more money, or will there be more joy? For us, we have that spraha. So as seekers, we can also have that attitude. That's why I said we should start thinking like the man of realization. If we want to become a man or woman of realization, we should start thinking like him. So we should also think, okay, this joy came, let me enjoy it. And you know what? If it is going to come again, it will come. Why should I be worried about it? Why should I long for it? Okay? Longing. Spraha is not desire, it is the longing, craving for desire, wanting the desire. So craving is an intense wanting. Now, you might want it, but sometimes the want, okay, theek, if it comes on. Spraha is stronger than a want, just a want. Okay, so that we can develop. And I personally find that very powerful. It helps me because I know that nobody can change my destiny. Even God cannot. And the reason that God, Ishvara, cannot change this destiny is because that is his rule. He has put that into play. And what is the rule that he has put in? He has made the law that prarabdha can never be changed. He put it in. Now, if he put his own rule, he can't go and change that rule. He cannot change that rule. That's why even knowledge, he says, even if you come to know that you are that Atma, your body will have to go through the prarabdha. So if your body is going to suffer, whatever, it is going to suffer. So that part you be very firm with. Nothing can change. Then, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Vita without, Raga attachment, fear, and Krodha is anger. So he, the one who is without attachment, fear and anger, Sthita Dhir Muni Ruchate. Again, the last, that such a person. So a person who is not agitated in sorrows, does not long for pleasures, joys, and who is without attachment, fear and anger, is considered as a Sthita Prajna. So again, the same thing, not like this will come first. First, the Sthita Prajnata will come, the steadiness of the intellect will come, and then these will follow. Attachment is coming from, the word for attachment is Shobhanadhyas, the technical word. Shobhanadhyas, adhyasa is superimposition. Shobhan is an idea of beauty or an idea of happiness, a sense of joy. So what I'm doing, why does attachment arise? Okay, I have given you this example many times. We walk through a mall, there are millions of things. Does all the million things, do they attract me? or anybody else, I don't think so. I don't think that's even possible. Like everything, single thing in every single store is attracting you. No. But there are some trigger points where we do Shobhan Adhyas. And what we do is what we do Adhyas what we superimpose is we superimpose a sense of joy on that object. And why is it called superimposition? Because the object is inert. The object cannot, no matter what object it is there in this world, it cannot have happiness. It cannot. Because if it had its own happiness, inherent happiness, that happiness should radiate to every single person on the universe. And does it radiate? It doesn't. So there are some people who do Shobhan Adhyas on some things, but all people do on some things. That's what I should say. The man of realization has realized that he has actually realized the source of happiness. Why? Because the self is the original fountain of happiness. It is the original source of happiness. He has now gone and dubki lagai, you know, like he's swimming in that fountain of bliss. Okay, now he is in there. Now will he think that there is happiness somewhere else? He knows that that happiness that even previously when I felt that when I gained an object was coming from within. He recognizes that. See, for us also, it's exactly the same thing. You know, I'm agitated about something. I have a desire for something. Then I go get that object. It may be as simple as a cup of tea or coffee, or an object or a big object, a car, a house, a spouse, a promotion, a bonus, whatever. And then what happens is, for a while, my mind calms down. When I get that, when I obtain it, my mind calms down. And in the calm mind, what is happening is the divinity which is within. And what is the divinity is Satchit Ananda principle. The principle of Ananda is there, the bliss. That bliss shines forth. And that is the happiness that I feel. But I do adhyasa, I do superimposition. Instead of knowing the reality that the happiness is coming from within, I think that the happiness came from without. So it came from that object. I think like the ignorant person thinks like that. And because he thinks, that is what Shobhan Adhyas is. Because he has put that idea of happiness in the outside object, he gets attached to it. Why would I get attached to something which I think will not give me happiness? Will I ever get attached to that? Do I, suppose if I see a cockroach in my house, or do I suddenly get attached to it? Because I know this is not going to give me happiness. So I will only attach to those things which I think it is only a thought. Thought is false. If you go even deeper, then thought also is false. But okay, I think, and I think that the object is real, and I think that my thought is real, and then I think that the happiness is real, and then now I've gotten attached. And then this attachment leads to fear. See, fear and anger are only byproducts of the attachment. So if you become Vitaraga, you don't have to worry. It is not three things that you have to take care of. You have to take care of only one thing. Okay. The Sthita Prajna has already taken care of the attachment. So there's no question of fear. Why? So when I get attached to some object, then what the first fear is, will I get it or not? That fear is immediately coming. Will I get it? Will I get it? Will I get it? Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay. Oh, will I lose it? Will I lose it? Will I lose it? Again, palpitations in the heart, because I'm so attached to it. Even before getting, I'm palpitating. And then even after getting, the palpitation is not stopping, because then I have a fear of losing it. Because of the attachment, this is arising. Again, the intensity of attachment will determine the intensity of the fear. Okay, the next choice is I won't get it. Then what will happen? I'll be angry. I'm angry. I didn't get it. And so these two, fear arises out of a sense of otherness. See, in other things, this is object, fear arises out of attachment. That's one thing. But it also arises out of otherness, a sense of otherness. Because see, if we are sitting in a room and somebody walks in, suddenly we are like, oh my God, who is it? Then someone in the room recognizes, oh, no, that's so-and-so, that's my friend. So there is a connection, fear goes away. So for a Sthita Prajna also, there is no fear because he doesn't think of the world as something other than him. He has recognized that he is the substratum of this entire universe, that the universe is because of him. Those who are senior students should understand this point. So he doesn't have a sense of otherness in the world. If there is no sense of otherness, there cannot be any fear. Fear arises out of otherness. I think it is something else from me. And that's what I'm giving reality to. I'm giving reality to the world by saying that it is something different from me. And because it is different from me, now I have reason to fear the world. But the example that is given is a person who walks into a hall of mirrors. He knows, even though he sees, the mirrors are of different types. And so he will see himself as being short, tall, thin, fat, ugly, beautiful, whatever he will see. He knows they're all his reflections. He is not afraid. But a dog walks in there. He sees, oh my God, there are so many dogs, and he starts barking. Then they bark. The reflection is barking. Now he thinks there is a war. And that is where the ignorant person is. He's in a hall of mirrors and he's thinking that all these people are different than me. All these reflections are different than me. In actuality, they are his reflections. There is no otherness. There should not be any fear, but there is, because again, there is that superimposition that these reflections are different than me. Whereas a Sthita Prajna knows that this entire world is me only. We have the example of Swami Tapon Maharaj, our grand guru. He's Swami Chinmayanandaji's guru. He used to wander in the Himalayas, and there used to be thieves there, apparently robbers. So one robber came to him and he said, give me money. They would, whatever, because travelers used to be there walking, I believe, and they would probably have money and stuff. So he came and he asked Swami Taponji Maharaj for money or whatever. Swamiji said, I have nothing. I have this shirt. If you want, that's all he used to wear is a shirt. So he said, I have this if you want. And the thief, and he was absolutely fearless. The very fact that he was wandering alone in the Himalayas tells us how fearless he was. We wouldn't be. We would at least have a guide or something with us, right? So he used to wander alone. Then the thief only felt sorry for him, it seems. He said, have you eaten? He said, no, I have not eaten. He said, okay, I have got roti. We'll share and eat. So in the presence of a Mahatma, people also start becoming good. That aura is there for a realized master, right? So they are themselves fearless, and then the other person also feels fearless. It happens for us also, ordinary people, right? See, somebody is afraid. If you, oh yeah, now both of you are afraid. That's why see, Bhagwan, he smiled when Arjun was crying so much. Bhagwan smiled. If a person is afraid, you should never say, oh my God, now what happened? Now what will, you shouldn't say, hey, don't worry, it'll be okay. Have you experienced this? You give them solace by saying it'll work. Even if you think it's not going to, you say it'll work out. You calm down. Don't be afraid. So in the presence of a fearless person, the other person also will become fearless. So we as seekers, at least if we should practice being like this. Other thing that fear is, okay, whether you worry and whether you fear, if it is going to come to you, it is going to come to you. So why fear? That is also there. But fear arises out of attachment, and fear also arises out of otherness. Maybe there's no attachment, but there is otherness. So if we can try and remember that this world is only a reflection of me alone, I am the substratum. We have to remember that because we are not established in there. And anger is also coming out of unfulfilled attachment, unfulfilled desire. Okay, so anger also is because of otherness. But so if you take care of attachment, bhaya and krodha will take care of themselves. Reduce the attachment, So first, we're not saying suddenly remove attachment. That's not possible. So reduce attachment, fear will reduce, anger will reduce. These things, that because we have to try to only reduce all these negative qualities in the mind. Okay, Asthita Prajna, who has no such fear, he doesn't have attachment, so he's taken care of fear and anger. Now, so this is like he comes out of samadhi and now he's going around in the world, and this is what he's facing, and this is how his response is. His is a response, ours is a reaction. The difference between response and reaction. So he responds and we react. And when we react, then we get agitated. All right. Now, so it was 56 was equanimity with regard to joys and sorrows. Now Bhagavan is talking about equanimity with situations. Okay. Yes sarvatra nabhisnehaha tat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. He who is everywhere without attachment, on meeting with anything good or bad, who neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is fixed. So that was with regard to joys and sorrows. This is regards with situations. Situations come to a man of realization, because I told you situations come to us and situations come to him also, because he's living in the same world that we are in. So he moves around without, because already he's vita raga bhaya krodha. So already he has no attachment. Attachment also, see, we will get attached to something which we think is other than us. Do I get attached to my own head or my own hand? If I think that it is me only, it is me, I cannot get attached. But if I think it is somebody else, then I get attached. So with him, he doesn't think of the world as something other than him. So there is no reason for getting attached. Whatever the reason, he's established in the self, so he's not attached. So when he meets with situations which are auspicious, and then he also meets with situations which are not so very auspicious, and then what does he do? Does he rejoice? Oh, auspicious situation came. Does he rejoice? No. He's happy. Okay, theek hai, it came. It was in my prarabdha, it came. Then if auspicious situations come and you receive them, then inauspicious situations also you should receive. So then when the situation comes, he will accept those as well. So when he's moving around in the world, he is meeting all these situations. There is and this detachment is born out of an understanding for him. Remember that the detachment is coming out of the understanding that this world is not other than me. This situation is actually not for me. Because why? Because I am established in the self. So this situation is for my body, and yes, the body has to go through its prarabdha, so let it go through its prarabdha. So that is his understanding. He's firmly established in that. For us, let us try to remember this understanding and behave that way. That's how for the seeker it should be. So auspicious both situations will come. There is one thing also here, is that example of this auspicious, two examples I can give. One is, I've told you, Sri Rama. He was told one day that he's becoming the king of Ayodhya, and he had a smile on his face. So auspicious, good situation. And immediately next day he was told, you have to go to exile into the forest and live like a renunciate or whatever. And the same smile was there on his face. Would we have smiled the same way? We would have been throwing tantrums. So that's what is meant by the behavior of a man of realization, or an auspicious. And also the other thing is, because they have gone beyond the situation. So there is this story that we were not story, a thing that real thing that happened. So in one of the Chinmay Vidyalayas, and Swami Mitrananda told us this when we were in Sandipani, that it was the 25th anniversary of the school Chinmay Vidyalaya in north somewhere, Ranchi or somewhere, and Swami Mitrananda was invited for the function. And so he went, and the principal of the school, who had been there when he probably was a teacher at that point, the principal, when the school was inaugurated. And so apparently the inauguration was going to happen at the hands of Pujya Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananji. And the priest, you know how they draw the horoscope of the school. So they said before 2 o'clock, you must do this opening, because after 2, Rahu is going to enter the horoscope of the school. And then that's an inauspicious situation. So auspicious is before 2 o'clock, and Gurudev his plane was supposed to arrive before 2 o'clock. So there was no problem, except the plane got delayed and he arrived after 2 o'clock. It was past 2 when he arrived at the school. So all the organizers got all worried, and they said to him that, oh, Gurudev, but you know what? It's past 2 o'clock and now it's an inauspicious time to do the opening. And Gurudev said, where I am, Rahu cannot enter. As they said, now Rahu is entered. He said, no, if I am here, then Rahu cannot enter. And the reason that he says that, it is not out of arrogance. Please remember, those who don't know Gurudev, he was realized master. He is above good and bad. He is in that self. See, Rahu and Ketu and all these planets and what, they cannot touch that Om in our chart. That Om, the self, cannot be touched by anybody. So if you are identified with that Om, nothing below can touch you. Nothing below can touch you. I will give you this technical explanation. Those who are senior students should understand the tech that I'm giving it for them. So for those of you who are new to this, understand that we have to, maybe there are new people, Dinesh, maybe one day we can show the chart, our chart. Whenever, okay?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that at least once they see it when I refer to the chart. So those of you who have seen the chart, V and BMI and all that underneath, whatever is happening underneath is auspicious, inauspicious, sukha, dukkha, agitation, peace, whatever is happening there. Om is absolutely untouched. So when the person is totally identified with that Om, with the final self, what Rahu, what Ketu, what Shani, whatever planets that you can name, he is going to say, what is that? Okay. Now, technically what is happening is, again, I'll give you the example of the rope and the snake. Because this whole thing under the V is a superimposition, this is only for the senior students. Okay, so if the other students don't quite understand this, don't worry about it. If you've understood up to there, that's fine. The whole thing is a superimposition on that Om. When the snake is superimposed on the rope doesn't get poisoned. The rope doesn't become poisonous. So this entire gamut from V, BMI and PFT and OET and all this thing is a superimposition on the Supreme Self. So the superimposition cannot affect the substratum in any way. So there may be Rahu running around and Ketu running around, and whoever is running around in that, you know, that snake may be wiggling and rattling and moving its tail and doing all kinds of things. The rope can never be affected. And that's why this Sthita Prajna, I identified with that Om. This, he says, it's not going to affect me. It is not for me. It is a superimposition. For us to understand superimposition is a bit far away. So understand that it is Prarabdha. That is easier. Finally, when you go into final Vedanta, and finally, you'll know that there is no Prarabdha either, but that's way far away. So I'm not going to say that. There is Prarabdha for us. Why? Because we think we are the body. That means there is Prarabdha. We are living. That means there is Prarabdha. We are going through today fever, tomorrow cold, tomorrow this, tomorrow that. All that is Prarabdha. And for us, it is real. So, okay, understand. Okay, fine, it is real. Na? You have to go through it. Understand, you have to exhaust it, because there is no other way. There is no other way. You cannot pray, oh Lord, take this Prarabdha away. No, I told you, Ishvara cannot touch Prarabdha. Ishvara cannot touch my Prarabdha. You can pray for what? Give me the strength to go through this Prarabdha. That's all you can pray for, is give me the strength. Okay, you've given me this thing. Now give me the strength to face this situation. That you can pray for. But you cannot, you can pray, God, take this away. But God cannot take it away. So don't ask God something to do which he cannot go against his own rule. But he can definitely give you the strength. That he can do. So it's the same thing, you know, you have, something is there heavy to lift, but you have the muscles to lift it. So what's the problem? Lift it. There's no problem. Two things, either you reduce the weight, or you strengthen yourself. Reduction of weight is prarabdha. Nobody can touch it. You can't touch it and God can't touch it. Okay, so forget that. To increase your strength. Right? So that's why this situations which are auspicious and inauspicious, and both of them will come. Why? Because 50-50, punya papa is 50-50. That's why human birth has come. So you bear them. Okay. Now, the other, if we were also, I told you about when he comes out in the world. So there are people, he will himself proactively either speak or people will talk to him. So how will he react? That is there. And then the question, how does he talk, was the first one, right? So in these two, what it is if he goes out and proactively he talks, he will only talk about the false nature of the world. Whatever I've told you, that is what he will talk. Will he talk saying, oh, good, you know, you should have this thing and get attached and all that? He's not going to talk. And if people, proactively, that is what he's going to tell. Even if people come and ask him, then he's going to say the same thing. He's never going to say this, yes, this world is real and you should be going after it and it's okay. No. However he's behaving, he's going to talk. So if he's Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, he's going to say, no, give up attachment. That is the cause for your sorrow. That's what he's going to tell. Don't do Shobhana Dhyas. Don't put a sense of beauty. Don't put a sense of happiness in the object because it is not there. Don't do Adhyas. Don't do superimposition. You're superimposing. Don't do that. This is what he's going to be talking. Next 3 verses are how does he sit? That was another question. Is there any question so far? Oh,
yeah. I have the chart if you want to. Do you want me to share it? The chart?
Sure. Just for a minute, can you show the chart? And then I think because Vishnu is new, at least I know. One second. So you're seeing this chart, everybody. I'm just quickly going to explain. Om is at the top consciousness, and V vasanas. The V is the causal body. At some point, and we'll talk about it. Mind intellect is the subtle body, M and I. B is the physical body, and through the body, body is the perceiver. Why? Because the body has the senses, and the body perceives objects, and the mind feels emotions. That's why there is the body, mind, intellect, which become the perceiver, feeler, thinker. The intellect thinks, thoughts. So objects, emotions, and thoughts. So when I refer to the chart, then this is the chart that has been created by Swami Chinmayananji, our Gurudev. And under the V, all this is the world. And there is all the situations, sorrows, joys, planets, whatever that you say is here. The minute you transcend that V and go to the Om, and that's where the man of realization is sitting. Sthita Prajna, when we say his intellect is seated in that Om, our intellect is seated in the BMI. I think either I'm the body or I'm the mind. That's why I get hurt, or intellect, I get insulted. Because why? I think that. I think there is an auspicious situation because, you know, BMI is, that's why when I do puja, then I'll look for a muhurta, good day, bad day, this day, that day, because that's where I'm sthita prajna. That's where my prajna is sthita, is steady in there. So when that steadiness shifts to Om, nothing under the V matters. So please remember this chart for all of, I mean, many people have seen it, but those who have not seen it. So whenever I say our chart, then this is what I would be referring to. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dinesh. Rachna, you had a question?
Yes, Jayaji. Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I had a question about prarabdha. Like normally it is said like even God cannot change our prarabdha, leave alone us. But many times in the common world, like sometimes we hear that, oh, in the next 3 months are bad for you. Your horoscope says that suppose the next 3 months are bad for you. So if this Panditji will do this puja, or if you do that puja for this period of time, then maybe that so much bad will not happen, but it will lessen slightly, whatever bad has to come. So my question is, if prarabdha even God cannot touch, that will not change. So how do we believe that by doing this puja or that intensity, like you said, you cannot change it, but you can ask God for the strength to face it.
Correct.
So where am I going wrong?
No, you're not going wrong. You have to understand that even the meeting with the priest is prarabdha. Because there are many people who are not going to believe in the priest, who are not going to meet the priest. So what is happening is your prarabdha, yeah, it is a bad time, but your actual prarabdha is that you won't bear that much of sorrow. That's why that priest comes into your life.
Oh,
see, everything is priest coming is prarabdha. Otherwise, people don't meet the priest, don't believe in the priest, don't do this thing in this thing, right? If I tell my children, they'll say, Mom, what priest? I'm not going to do anything, right? Because they don't believe in that, right? So that also is prarabdha. So understand. And by sending the priest, your prarabdha, some punya, that's why I said papa, punya, both are there. So this papa is bringing this 3 bad months for you, but there is some punya in your past which is bringing the priest also to you.
Correct.
Now the priest is correct, maybe he's a good one, and he's telling you that this is, and he's telling you. So if you do it with complete faith, what will happen is your strength will increase, prayers will increase strength. Like I said, the weight is there. Either weight cannot be reduced, but strength can be increased, which means that you don't feel the weight of that weight. See, a person who is strong, 20 pounds, he'll say, oh, nothing. And somebody who's weak, 10 pounds also, they will be this thing, right? So that's what it is. There is good prarabdha acting and bad prarabdha. Both are acting simultaneously.
It never occurred to me.
Every minute is prarabdha, yeah. Yes, Shivaram.
Hari Om Jayaji. So, Ajnani is based at Om Jayaji, but for interactions, the mind still has to be there at that level, right, Jayaji? You said that they don't respond, especially this one, Ya Sarvatra. So, he who is everywhere without attachment, on meeting with anything good or bad, who neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is fixed. But Jayaji, the anything good or bad, or neither rejoices or hates, are also a mind's response, right, Jayaji? It is not at that level, because at that level we are beyond all this, because all this is happening at the mind level. But are they? So how do I understand this, Jayaji? Because if they are beyond the mind, but in this world they still need the mind, because the mind does exist in the physical body. So how do I translate it at a very low level, like my level, right? I'm a very human base level.
Okay. So what it is for a man of, like I've told you many times, prarabdha doesn't end at knowledge. Okay. Prarabdha is only to the BMI.
Okay.
Prarabdha is not to the soul, to the Atma. So now what has happened is he has realized himself to be that Atma. That doesn't mean that the BMI stops living. He will feel, if he touches fire, he will feel hot. He will get burnt also. Okay. So these things are happening, but he is so well established in that even if these things happen, he says they're not happening to me.
Okay.
Where is the I? Where is my I today? My I is in the BMI. When I say I'm referring to my BMI. Either I'm tall, short, I'm fat, thin, or I'm happy, sad, or I'm intelligent, dull. Whereas what he's saying is, my equipment is my body is, I am not fat or thin. That's why he's established. I am not this thing.
So that is where when you say look inwards, your direction of where you're looking is more inward, and it's not external anymore. So the external doesn't ever, because you're always established in that thought, this does never bother you. Okay.
Correct. For a man of realization, he is sitting in the Om. And things are happening. The vasanas are there too. The vasanas also come up. He will say that, suppose if he comes to your house and you say, oh, would you like tea or coffee? He will say coffee, or he will say tea. That's coming from his vasana.
Okay.
He will say that. He will say that. Of course. Or if you ask him, shall I make this for you or this for you? He'll say, no, you make that for me. He will say that. But if it is not there, he doesn't get upset.
Jayashree,
and if he is not asked, he will eat whatever is given to him.
Sorry, Jayashree. But how does the thought of this established person, how do the thoughts work, Jayashree, in this person established at that level? How does it, it does, to ask for a coffee or to accept the thought? So again, it connects to desires, and now you are in a thoughtless state if you have no desires. But your thought is needed for this. So that is what confuses me, Jayashree.
Okay. So when you say you're in a thoughtless state, that's why this samadhi answer was different. Thoughtless state means what? Means the man of realization, one thing, he's not sitting in a corner somewhere on a mountaintop in samadhi. Second thing is, he is functioning in the transactional world, which means his body, mind are very alert. Thoughtless state that's a wrong term. It is a thought-free state.
Thought-free state.
We are thoughtless. We don't think and we do things. He is in a thought-free state, not a thoughtless state. There's a huge difference between these two words. So he is in a thought-free state, but he is acting, moving around this world, because the definition of samadhi Bhagavan is given as not having any desires. Thought is working exactly in the same way as it works for us. Where is thought coming from? From vasanas.
Okay.
Okay. So for him also, that's why I said vasanas are there. Vasanas are there. So from that vasana is arising a thought. Okay. That's why I told you, thought will arise for him, thought will arise for us. What is his response to that thought? What is my response to that thought? That is where the difference is. So the thought arises for a man of realization, and he says, this thought has arisen in my mind. I am a witness to this thought. Whereas I am saying, I am the thought. I am angry. I am happy. He doesn't say I am happy. He says, happiness has arisen in my mind. And the mind is feeling happy. I am not the mind. Or the mind is feeling sad. Do I care? Do I care?
Are they completely established at the level of intellect, Jayashree? At this
not intellect, beyond intellect. Beyond intellect.
Is the intellect established at what you said at the highest level? So it is already a pre-decided thing that this is happening. That's it.
Yeah.
There is no continuity. There's no thought beyond it. Oh, this is happening. This is not happening. That's it.
At that moment, that thing is happening. That question has been asked, and he will answer.
So always in the present moment, never established in the past or the future. Doesn't matter. I am here now.
No. Yeah. That's why one of the practices for us seekers also is remain in the present. Remain in the present at all times, because the present is the only real thing. Past is dead and gone, and it is the ego that wants to preserve the past. Ego is a bundle of memories. That's one definition of ego. So when we want to preserve the past by whatever means, we are strengthening our ego. We're strengthening our ego. Remember that. That's why the past should never be talked about. Gurudev has always said, never talk about your past. I did this, I did that, this. I was such and such, I was such and such. You know, those people don't understand that. We have a bhajan group, and bhajan is meant for devotional songs for God, but in that bhajan, when they announce, they're like, Dr. So-and-so will now sing the next bhajan. Dr. So, you're not a doctor, you're in the hall of God. They don't even, and they don't even understand that they're strengthening the ego. They're doing bhajans, and then all they're doing is strengthening the ego. 30 years we have done bhajans. Just yesterday we had the anniversary. That's all this coming up. Now let us have a souvenir, it seems. So whoever has got photos of all the bhajans that they've had, then send it to me, and then I will make a smaranika. Smaranika is a souvenir. What for? If they give me a paper copy, I'm going to just put it in my recycling bin, right? Because that's my training. You see, we enjoyed the bhajans, we did the bhajans, let go. It is dead and gone. It's dead and gone. You're holding on to a dead carcass. They don't understand. They do not understand. And after 30 years of bhajans, the biggest joke is, then the organizer says, I'm telling you, this is my experience, that bhaya and chinta, you know, means fear and worry, go away by taking the name of the Lord. Now, this guy has, no bhaya has gone out of him. 30 years he has done bhajans. He got depressed. He had a cataract surgery. He got depressed. He came to me. I'm depressed. Why? Cataracts. Cataract. It's a lineup now for cataract. Assembly line they're doing, right? 30 years, bhajans. And then now he's saying, I'm telling you, you know, take the, but you took for 30 years, so still your bias. 30 years you've been taking the name of the Lord. What is bhajan? But if you keep doing these things, they don't recognize that. That's the sad part. But the ban of realization never holds on to anything past.
Jayaji, every practice that you recommend for us in past, like in Kindle Life also, is to try and always be in the present, right, Jayaji? Like even when you say breathing techniques or bhajan, or slowly start from bhajan, single-minded focus, is to establish your thought in the present moment so that you are at a single thought state and not fluctuating between. That is what causes. Okay. Thank you, Jayaji. I think you've given me something more to work on.
Presence. Brahman is presence. He's not present. He's presence. So you be aware, fully aware in the moment. Then you're one with Brahman at that point. Yeah. Tripti, did you have anything to ask? It's time. Okay. So we will close.